Brigitte Bardot doesn't like you unless you're an endangered species. The French icon, who was once called the most liberated woman of post-war France, isn't who we thought. Brigitte Bardot grew up in a 7-bedroom apartment in an affluent corner of Paris, but her childhood wasn't entirely rosy. According to Barnett Singer's 2013 biography, Brigitte Bardot, a biography, Bardot's parents, Louis Bardot and Anne-Marie Moussel, ran a strict Catholic conservative household. They reportedly dictated what Brigitte and her sister Mizanou wore each day and demanded the two girls maintain proper etiquette. Moussel exercised control over who her daughters played with, which left Brigitte feeling inferior at best, isolated and lonely at worst. One evening, Louis and Moussel served Bardot's beloved rabbit, Naro, as the main course for their family dinner. This experience could likely have played a role in her later decision to become an animal rights activist. As Bardot told Singer, she and Mizanou once accidentally broke a vase in their family apartment, and their father whipped them 20 times each as punishment. However, what stung even more, according to Bardot, was that he took the punishment beyond the physical and into the psychological by actively ignoring his two daughters. He and Moussel began addressing the two girls with the French pronoun vous, which is a word used to address strangers, formal acquaintances, and certainly not used as a term of endearment. Although incidents such as these had a profound impact on Bardot and her sister, she has since described her ability to find some merit in their parenting style. In an interview with Biography, she said, "My parents gave me a strict upbringing which at times has caused me to suffer distress, but today I am grateful to them for it." Brigitte Bardot has attempted to commit suicide at least 4 times over the course of several decades, as reported by the Sydney Morning Herald. The first attempt happened when she was 16 years old and wanted to marry 22-year-old director's assistant, Rosented Vadim. When her parents found out about the affair, they threatened to send Bardot to England to keep her away from the older man, as well as keeping him from her. Bardot responded by sticking her head in a gas oven. Thankfully, her parents discovered her in time. On September 28, 1960, her 26th birthday, Bardot attempted suicide again by taking an entire bottle of sleeping pills and cutting her wrists. At age 58, Bardot took an overdose of tranquilizers and had her stomach pumped. Her husband, Bernard Domal, said to People magazine at the time, Brigitte was overcome with fatigue and took too much medication to go to sleep.
Right now I'm very happy.
Despite her continued attempts to end her life, Bardot has now lived for nearly 9 decades and has found a certain degree of peace. She told The Guardian in 1996, "I'm happier in my routine life today than when I was chased after by 100 photographers." Bardot told People magazine that in 1956, at the wild beginning of her career, what she missed most about her life before the fame and fortune was, quote, "a life without drama." On February 8, 1958, French and Italian newspapers reported that Bardot had intentionally overdosed on sleeping pills 2 days prior in a suicide attempt. Bardot's public relations manager denied these claims, stating that Bardot had a mere case of food poisoning. But the Los Angeles Times reported that the French actor was recovering from a nervous breakdown at Cortina d'Ampezzo, a winter sports retreat in northern Italy. Her breakdown came after Bardot split from her then partner, Jean-Louis Trintignant, with whom she had been living for 2 years prior. At 18, Brigitte Bardot married Raja Vadim, who was 6 years her senior. The pair met when Bardot was just 16 years old. 4 years later, Vadim made his directorial debut and cast Bardot in the starring role in the 1956 film And God Created Woman. Bardot's performance in the film made her an overnight sex symbol and ultimately created the hypersexualized image that followed her entire film career. Bardot eventually divorced Vadim and embarked on an illicit affair with her married And God Created Woman co-star Jean-Louis Trintignant. Bardot wrote in her 1996 autobiography, Initials BB, that she had been intimate with 4 husbands and over 100 lovers. "I had a visceral need to be loved, to be desired, to belong body and soul to the man I admire, whom I love, whom I respect." While writing about her intimate partners, which included French crooner Serge Gainsbourg and American actor Warren Beatty, she also wrote about being physically abused by actor Jacques Charrier, who fathered her only son. As noted by People magazine, Bardot has been married to Bernard Domal since 1992. Brigitte Bardot gave birth to her only child, a son named Nicolas, with her second husband, Jacques Charrier. Detailing her 1959 pregnancy in her memoir, Initials BB, The Independent reported that Bardot wrote, "I looked at my flat, slender belly in the mirror like a dear friend upon whom I was about to close a coffin lid." She went on to reveal that she had punched herself in the stomach repeatedly and asked her doctor for morphine in an attempt to terminate the pregnancy. To top off her disturbing testimonies, Bardot was quoted as referring to her then unborn child as a cancerous tumor and added that she would have, quote, preferred to give birth to a little dog. Following the release of her memoir, Nicolas and the elder Charrier sued Bardot for the remarks. A French court ordered her to pay £28,000, approximately $38,000 in damages, and that certain passages of the book should be prefaced with warning labels. Charrier reportedly denied Bardot access to their son once he was born. Nicolas did not invite Bardot to his wedding in 1982, and he and his mother have been known to have gone as much as a decade without seeing one another. Even still, they reportedly reconciled in the 1990s after the birth of Nicolas' first child and Bardot's first grandchild. Bardot once told The Independent, "I'm not made to be a mother. I'm not adult enough. I know it's horrible to have to admit that, but I'm not adult enough to take care of a child." While beauty is generally seen as a gift, Bardot found the preoccupation with her looks uncomfortable and stifling. Bardot felt disdain for the watchful gaze of men and fans who saw her as a commodity. She said, "I still can't stand being watched. Certain people want to embrace me, to touch me."
Could I have your autograph?
You mean you came from California?
All the way? Only to get my autograph?
Bardot wanted to shrink from view because despite her glamorous and outgoing on-screen persona, she was actually very shy. Men didn't know how to separate the love they felt for me from what I represented in the eyes of the world. In the spring of 1973, a 38-year-old Brigitte Bardot retired from making films. From her breakthrough role in And God Created Woman to films like Viva Maria, Bardot's performance career was largely defined by the public according to her superficial attributes. She told The Guardian, "Life could not possibly be as pointless as what I was seeing. I was embodying the very image of frivolity. The heart of my life has never been superficial. On the contrary, it was always quite serious."
Oh no, I prefer this kind of film. I will be a serious actress when I will be older.
Bardot discussed her decision to leave the industry with The Guardian and drew a parallel to Marilyn Monroe, as well as other beautiful women in the industry. She said, "The majority of great actresses met tragic ends. When I said goodbye to this job, to this life of opulence and glitter, images and adoration, the quest to be desired, I was saving my life." Once she left the film industry, Brigitte Bardot devoted her life to animal rights activism. "I gave my youth and my beauty to men. I am now giving my wisdom and my experience, the best of myself, to animals." She told the Sydney Morning Herald that as of 1992, she was living with some dozen dogs, 40 cats, and assorted livestock, many of which were rescued from pounds or slaughterhouses.
You make friends with her, and she will let you pet her kittens.
Bardot now helms the Brigitte Bardot Foundation, which has led projects in conservation and animal rehabilitation that have helped protect bears, koalas, elephants, and beyond. Still, Bardot is not optimistic about curing the widespread mistreatment and exploitation of animals by human solutions. In 2014, she told the Daily Mail, "Man has not evolved. He has stayed fundamentally cruel and barbaric, even if he thinks he has moved on. The industrialization of the rearing and death of animals takes away all my hope of it ever improving." In the introduction to her 2019 book, Tears of Battle, an animal rights memoir, she wrote of her desire to separate herself from the, quote, arrogant and bloodthirsty human species, adding that she has always related to non-human animals most. Bardot told The Guardian, "I know what it feels like to be hunted. Humans have hurt me, deeply, and it is only with animals, with nature, that I have found peace." In 1983, exactly a decade after she left the movie business, Brigitte Bardot was diagnosed with breast cancer, according to Page Six. She reportedly refused treatment, but her friend, fellow French actor Marina Vladi, convinced her to undergo treatment and share the diagnosis with the public. In 1985, the Los Angeles Times reported her recovery was a success. Despite no longer having breast cancer, Bardot has experienced other health issues in the decades since, particularly double degenerative arthritis. In 2014, she told the Daily Mail that she needed to use walking sticks to get around. Bardot once told People magazine, I really wanted to die at certain periods in my life. Death was like love, a romantic escape. I took pills because I didn't want to throw myself off my balcony and know people would photograph me lying dead below. Her first husband, Roger Vadim, once said that every birthday is a test for her, and it's usually a desperate time. Later in life, some of Brigitte Bardot's true colors came to light. By 2001, BBC News reported that Bardot had made 3 French court appearances for inciting racial hatred against Muslims. In one case in 1999, she wrote an article titled "Open Letter to My Lost France," in which she despaired over increasing Muslim immigration and used inflammatory language. A noted animal rights activist, Bardot also criticized the ritual slaughter of sheep during Islamic festivals. Her comments came under fire and she was fined 30,000 francs. BBC News continued its coverage of Bardot in 2003, highlighting criticism of her book, A Cry in the Silence, in which she condemned the gay community, immigrants, and modern sex workers who she believed had wrecked French culture. She also praised infamous far-right politician Jean-Marie Le Pen. 2 human rights groups announced their intentions to sue her, and a year later she was fined 5,000 euros in court. She nearly missed having to face jail time as per the BBC News. Bardot's turn in the public image was shocking, but it was known to be deliberate, explains The Guardian. She believed she was saying what others were afraid to say out loud. Evidently, court fines weren't enough to stop her from voicing her hateful opinions. In 2008, Bardot received her largest fine yet of 15,000 euros after she published more Islamophobic comments on her personal website. The online letter was addressed to Nicolas Sarkozy, and she again decried the ritual slaughter of animals, according to reporting by the BBC News. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic abuse, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more information, resources, and support at their website. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please contact the Crisis Text Line by texting HOME to 741-741. Call the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI 6264. or visit the National Institute of Mental Health website.